Hi, it's Purple Rain, coach of the Damascus Driftblims in the VBL-S, and this is my Season 10 Draft Tier List video. So I will be purely judging the teams, no coaches, nothing like that. And the reason I wanted to do this was because last season I had very little understanding of what made a good team by the time I was making one. But I feel like I have a much better grasp on what makes a good team. And also, I want to see how my understanding evolves over time. So this will be me taking a stab at trying to show what I think will make each team good, what will make each team bad, and the overall pluses and minuses of each team and where they rank up against each other. Then at the end of the season, I can review how I did, whether or not I think I was right, and what blind spots I might have, so I can get better at drafting and making a team and stuff like that. So this is mainly an exercise in prediction of and analysis. Anyways, let's start off. I'm starting off with the Enamorous division because that's the division I'm in, and so I care about it more. And to start, we have the Dublin Dondozos. Okay, so the team has Thunderous, Great Tusk, Typhlosion, Orthworm, Stantler, Gudra, Leafeon, Dockspun, Basculegion, Female, Scyther, and Hisuian Quillfish. So first thing right off the bat is this is a pretty fast team. Doesn't really have any actual Trick Room options. Orthworm I don't think is justifiable as a Trick Roomer because most of the time you want to be Iron Defense Body Pressing, and with that much setup I don't think you can really justify like committing to such a fast strategy as Trick Room, at least not consistently. Maybe you can have some Pokemon hold an Iron Ball or something, but even then, your slowest Pokemon that you could really do that with is Basculegion Female, and that's 78 speed. That's really tough. So this is a fast team, for sure. And the only Trick Room option is Stantler, and I actually don't know, does Stantler get Imprison? I believe it does. It does, so you can imprison Trick Room. That's important, but it's Stantler. It's like a 5-point mon or something, so it's not like that's a really big deal. No Fake Out on the team is tough as well. A pretty glaring ice weakness is what I'm noticing too, especially when your top two Pokemon are ice weak, and Hisuian and Typhlosion's not a real ice resist either. Orthworm is. Basculegion Female, I actually don't know the stats on it super well. Kind of is. It's got pretty good stats, 128 HP. It's good. But yeah, my initial thoughts on this team are just I think it's going to struggle into any Trick Room matchups. And another thing that I have a problem with this team is I have since learned after drafting it last season, I just don't like Orthworm. I think it's bad. And I think it's bad because it really pushes no offensive pressure. So its main benefit is if you can get Shed Tails off. But who are you Shed Tailing to here? Like, normally I would say you want to Shed Tail to a sweeper, so a setup sweeper. But I don't really see anybody that wants to set up here. I don't think Great Tusk can, because it doesn't get Swords Dance or anything, right? No, only Scyther gets Swords Dance, and you don't want to be setting up with that. Dragon Dance, you don't want to set that up with. I guess maybe it's Tailwind Thunderous into Shed Tail, into Basculegion, or into Great Tusk, but why wouldn't you just have Great Tusk out on the field at that point? Like, I don't know. I really struggle to see the vision with this team on a consistent basis and what it's going to do. Sorry if this sounds harsh, by the way. I'm not saying... I would love for you to prove me wrong, and this goes for any coach. If it sounds like I'm not a fan of your team, show me why. I am excited to learn by you beating everyone and me especially. Prove to me that this team is great, and I'll learn a ton. They also have the eruption next to Dock Spun mode with Typhlosion. But yeah, I mean, I'm just not seeing a ton that makes me like this team. Tornadus is great, of course, or Thunderous is great, of course, and it does have the Discquake mode. But it's Thunderous, so it doesn't have Tailwind. I thought it was Tornadus for some reason because it was the first one picked. It's Thunderous. That changes things. It actually changes a lot. I think I like this team less now. Because with Prankster Tailwind, at least you could have like Prankster Tailwind into super hard-hitting Great Tusk or super hard-hitting Eruption and Typhlosion. But now without that, I feel like you're sort of forced to Scarf Typhlosion because you don't really want to be relying on Scyther for Tailwind. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just really don't like this team overall. A lot of middling speeds without a consistent Tailwind setter is basically like my opinion on the team. I think that's going to be a really big downfall. I would look into if I were to grab this team, I would probably I think the Firebird that has Gale Wings. I'm forgetting its name. It's a Tailwind Pokemon. Firebird Pokemon. This one, Talonflame. That's embarrassing. I would grab Talonflame and replace Thundurus, probably, if I was going to do this. Replace Thundurus with Talonflame and probably trade Typhlosion or Goodra or something, or Scyther, and try to even out the point spread somewhere. Type chart overall looks pretty good. Like I said, Ice weakness, but that's not super uncommon. Flying weakness is also pretty real because Great Tusk is a flying weak Pokemon. But I guess not super real because maybe if this team ends up having to bring Scyther a lot, the flying weakness is really important. But yeah, I mean, this team doesn't seem horrible. Like, it's not defensively egregious at all. But I just don't see how it really threatens me. Like, I look at this team and I can think of ways to exploit it pretty easily. So with that being said, I think I'm going to start by putting this in the C tier. I may adjust my rankings over time. Adjust where I put each thing. But yeah, that's my first impression. C tier. Next, we have the Virginia Vikavolt. This is my week 1 matchup, so I have already been looking at it, and it's really, really interesting. The first thing that jumps out to me is the combo of Tinglu Dondozo. It can put up the Stealth Rocks, do the Yawn stuff, or it can just be, boosting up Dondozo, effectively boosting up Dondozo's special defense. And it already has a great defense stat, so like they become this kind of unkillable duo out on the field, right? That's what the goal of this team is, or that's what the goal of the duo is, to become unkillable, and then the Yawn stuff is optional, but a really good strategy into slower teams. That's cool. Iron Valiant is a Pokemon I just hate, which sounds harsh, and I know people love it. And I understand why people love it, I think. I get it. But I just don't think it's good enough at anything to justify the point price or to make me excited about using it ever. Like, it can do so many things, but you have to be so creative. And, like, I feel like you have to understand exactly what your opponent's doing. And then come up with a counter strategy to it with Iron Valiant. And I just feel like that's too much. That's asking too much of a coach on a week in, week out basis for it to be great. Instead, I just feel like I would fail with it. Again, if Jordan proves me wrong, that would be amazing. I would love to see an Iron Valiant really go off. We had a couple games last season where it did, I know, but I mean like consistently week in and week out prove to be a top Pokemon. That would completely warp my view of draft. But right now I just don't believe in it. Scizzor's pretty good. And there's not like a bunch of fire weak Pokemon on this team. That's one of the things I think when you look at a quad weakness on such a highly drafted Pokemon, like no other fire weaknesses in this column. That's huge. That's really nice. So Scizor can, if you're bringing fire to hit Scizor, that's all it's doing really, is you're using it to hit Scizor. And then if Scizor doesn't even come, then you're like, well, I just wasted a move slot on nothing. And Scizor can Terra. So I don't know. I think it's a good team for Scizor to be on. It also offers a Tailwind option, which is nice. This team has a lot of Tailwind options, right? Yeah, 3. Staraptor's interesting. It obviously wants to intimidate and then just final gambit a lot of the time. I think that does help the matchup, and then especially when you have the Dondozo Tinglu potentially in the back, like Dondozo's out and Staraptor or Tinglu's out, and either one of those protect Staraptor final gambits. The other Pokemon, so one Pokemon dies, the other one's intimidated, and then you just have this slow stealth rock Sion forcing them to switch out game that you push them into. I think that could be really cool. Misdreavus, I like as a Trick Room setter, but I don't really see it as anything other than a Trick Room setter. I don't think it's an offensive threat at all. The only other thing it has going for it is Levitate, so maybe there's like some skill swap Levitate stuff with Medicham. I believe in Medicham. I think Medicham's cool. I was looking at it, but the problem is with it is like, so it has skill swap, close combat, and Zen Headbutt, right? Like that's what I think it does most of the time. But then it has like weird niche moves, like it has the skill swap I was mentioning. It has Light Screen, and I think it has Reflect too. Maybe it doesn't though. Oh, it does. So it can be a screen setter 1 week or something, which this team would love screens. And it's the only, or I guess Valiant can also be a screen setter. But like, what's it skill swapping? It's not skill swapping Dondozo or Tinglu or Iron Valiant because it can't. It doesn't want to skill swap Scizor because Scizor likes Technician. Like obviously Pure Power is better, but Scizor still likes Technician, so you want something that's better to swap it on. Jolteon, you don't really want to swap Volt Absorb away. Like, it doesn't get much of anything by getting Volt Absorb, and it doesn't want the Pure Power. Staraptor, that's a good skill swap user. Intimidate, it gets Pure Power, but your opponent then does immediately know this is not a Final Gambit Pokemon anymore. This is probably a Tailwind plus attacks Pokemon, or even just pure coverage and attacking Pokemon. Maybe Dondozo. I don't know. It's got some stuff. Moltres, I think, is a great pickup. I think the trade to pick up Moltres is fantastic. It's a great Pokemon. Ton of value. Really good fire move user, fire type. Helps the Scizor because then it's another fire resist. It is another flying type, so the team is a little bit weaker to rocks because of it, but that's not a big deal. It's another Tailwind option, which is nice, especially for a team with so many Pokemon in this 100 to 80 range. I guess it doesn't have that many, but 4 is still a lot, and Scizor appreciates Tailwind too. Even Tinglu can, if it's built to. Flame Body's huge. It's good against any physical Pokemon, and it can obviously Terra to a better defensive typing. So I see what this team's going for. I feel like people have been hating on this team a lot, and I don't see why. It seems solidly built. It doesn't seem exceptional to me in any way. The Tinglu Dondozo core is scary, but nothing else really scares me. But at the same time, nothing else jumps out at me as something where I feel like I can really easily exploit the team either. Like the last team I was talking about, the Dublin Dondozos, I was like, this team just is super exploitable. Whereas with this team, with the Vikavolt, I don't feel that. I feel that it's just kind of mediocre in some ways, but it's not. It doesn't feel like it's fundamentally broken at all. There are no cracks showing. It's just, you know, an okay team. Oh, and I guess Volt Absorb is nice on a team with so many electric weaknesses, too. That's important to note for Jolteon. Yeah, I don't know. I like this team overall. Like, I don't love it, but my initial ranking is going to put it in the B tier. It's pretty solid. It does work. Okay, next. I've got Heaven's team, the Regilabs. So, I'm sorry, Heaven, for what I'm about to do to your team, because I do not like this team. But, you know, you're still great, and I'm excited to see what you do with it, but I'm just not a fan. And I think part of it is, like, the typings on this team are just kind of suck. Regidrago, Arcanine, Gothitelle, Mismagius are all Pokemon you can reasonably bring, like, pretty often, and all of them are single typings. This team's super wide, too, which is interesting, now that I'm looking at it, except for Jigglypuff. Like, Jigglypuff isn't a Pokemon, but even a Alomomola could come to a couple games. Maybe one game. But okay, so I don't like that. I don't like the single typings on stuff, especially, like, Gothitelle. I mean, I like Gothitelle's Pokemon, so whatever. The type chart looks really good, which is always nice. Arcanine's a good... All of these Pokemon I individually quite like, and I get why they're together, right? Gothitelle and Magnezone are both trapping Pokemon. You want to have that. Azumaril's Perish Song, Murkrow's Perish Song. That makes sense to me. You have a couple Dark types to help with the Ghost types here, and the Psychic type, Ghost and Dark weaknesses. Makes sense. But I just don't know what this team, how this team is putting on a ton of offensive pressure, because it seems like the fast mode really is Murkrow Tailwind into Regidrago, and if they have an answer for Regidrago, the available offense is just bad. And because, like, or I guess there's also Brambleghast, but I just don't believe in Brambleghast. I don't think it's that good of a Pokemon. 115 attack is just like meh, and I know it gets Windrider, but you're relying on a Ghost Grass type, and like I don't know if Ghost is a pretty okay offensive type, but Grass I don't love, and it's so frail. Like if any Sucker Punch just destroys it, and it's not like it's setting up, so there's no reason to not Sucker Punch it. Yeah. So, anyways. I just don't believe... And Regidrago, I think, is so one-dimensional that most teams are going to have an answer for it pretty easily. Whether that's in the form of a Terra, whether that's in the form of something else. I just think I'm not the biggest fan of this team. But I like the pieces. Like, I like Azumarill, and I like its ability to be a Perish Songer. And it clearly has a pretty good Trick Room mode, but I don't like any of the Trick Room setters. Like Gothitelle, sure, good Trick Room setter, but the other Trick Room setter potentially is Mismagius, and both of the answer to both of them is just strong Dark moves, right? Or imprisoning one of them. If you can stop this team from getting up Trick Room, I don't know what it's doing that's that scary. Because yeah, the Perish Trap mode, maybe it's just there will be some teams that just can't handle it, but I don't love Perish Trap in Draft, because teams can plan around being like, okay, the big threat I need to worry about here is Perish Trap. So again, I'd love to be proven wrong, but I just don't like this team that much. It's gonna probably end up around bottom of B. Like the other problem with this team is it's not fast at all. Like, the fastest Pokemon is Mismagius, and if you're bringing Mismagius to every game, you're losing a lot. The other option is Arcanine. Arcanine's good, but it's below base 100 speed. So you need Murkrow if you want a fast mode, and Murkrow kind of sucks at doing anything other than clicking Tailwind. And so your opponent can just like ignore Murkrow and hit whatever the partner is, or if they can stop Murkrow from getting up Tailwind, then your whole team is gone. So if they don't stop Murkrow from getting up Tailwind, then whatever, just ignore it and hit the other thing. Anyways, that's why that's my take. Is I just don't love this team's how this team feels forced into playing, but there are things about it which are clearly good. Like it would be, I would feel wrong and bad if I was just like Reggie Drago with a priority Tailwind setter, and Brambleghast with a priority Tailwind setter, and the defensive backbone of Arcanine, and in the Trick Room options of Magnezone, Azumarill, and Muckalola are bad. These all have synergy together and they're all good. And all with the option of being trapped. Like, all of these are good things. I just don't know if they mesh. I don't know if the way that you actually end up having to play them is conducive to a super good team. So, I don't know. I think this team is going to have to end up for me. It's like either bottom of B, top of C. I'm going to put it in the B tier for now. Maybe I'll move it later. Okay. Now we have the Anchorage Alakazams. I have some more hot takes. I feel like I don't like this team that much. I don't hate this team. This team is... how are you going to hate a team with Chien-Pao or Urshifu Rapid, right? But the problem I have is... the big problem I have with this team is... I think you want, with Urshifu Rapid, you want a good Tailwind setter. You want specifically a fast Tailwind setter. One that is preferably faster than Urshifu Rapid. Because if you can get a fast Tailwind, then you can know Urshifu Rapid's moving first, and then you can put something like a Sash on it. But without that, I think you want to be running Scarf, because it's just such a hard-hitting Pokemon. Like, it wants to hit first, but its speed isn't there for it. So I think there's a lot of value in Scarfing it if you don't have great speed control. I think it's meant to be Hisuian Arcanine. Let me double check that. Okay, I checked. It's supposed to be Hisuian Arcanine. Okay, so I like this team more than I just thought I did, because I like Hisuian Arcanine, I think, a bit more than I like Arcanine. That being said, my main problem with it is your Tailwind setter is Corviknight. Great Pokemon. Not a great Tailwind setter, in my opinion, because it's too slow. So now you have a slow Tailwind setter, which means that you have to wait a turn before Urshifu Rapid gets value out of it. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it does matter. Then, I feel like this team wanted to fill out their Fire, Water, Grass core. Or I guess they didn't. I was going to say they want to fill out their Fire, Water, Grass core with Scovillain being the Grass and Fire, but you don't need to because you obviously have Arcanine and Hisuian. So Scovillain could have just been Grass type. But maybe there were no good Grass types left on the board. Anyways, all this to say is, the reason I was bringing that up was because I feel like Scovillain is it's bad unless you are in the sun. In the sun, it's like pretty good. Maybe even very good at times. But this team doesn't have a great way of setting up sun outside of Espathra, but Espathra doesn't really want to be clicking Sunny Day. It wants to be either setting up screens, in my opinion, or Lumina crashing and setting up for another special attacker to take it out, which this team doesn't have. Or doing some weird skill swap stuff with speed boost. But I just don't think it's doing that. I guess it could skill swap Arcanine Hisuian, but like what Hisuian Arcanine wants to be doing is, I guess, the Rockhead Head Smash plus or Flare Blitz or whatever is great, obviously. But I think most of the time it's fine clicking Terra Normal Extreme Speed next to Chien-Pao, which is going to be its main job, and so it doesn't need the speed boost. But anyways, all the point is, Espathra doesn't want to click Sunny Day because it would rather be doing something else with its speed. And so if you're forcing it to click Sunny Day just so Scovillain can be usable, I don't get it. I think this team's going to have to bring Ditto a lot, because the first 5 Pokemon are all good, like really bringable and usable. Primeape's good, but needs support, and I don't see the support here on this team, like nothing that gets it Rage Fist. Again, no super fast Tailwind to help it outspeed threats that are going to be problems for it. And these 3 are Bagmons. I think you are, as somebody who brought Pichu to a game last season, don't do it. It is bad. It's a bad Pokemon. Did I do it well? No, I'm sure you could do it better. But Pichu's bad. Don't trick yourself into using the bad Pokemon. So, yeah, I don't know. I just, like, these 3 are fantastic together. But I'm not sure Espathra has enough special attack to really scare me into not just prepping into all defense. And Scovillain, I just don't believe in at all without a Sunny Day. I think it's going to just die. So you definitely don't have to prep for its special attack, and the only other potential special attacker is Ditto. And I think there are probably I've never played against a Ditto in VGC, so maybe if you're really good with Ditto, it's a huge threat. But I think there are ways you can probably play around through swapping and switching out and stuff, where you can mess around with what Ditto's able to do if you're really worried about it. Just doesn't seem like a consistent threat to me. So Espathra has to be your consistent special attacking threat, and I don't know if that's Espathra's best job. Still good, still a good team, but there are problems with this team, I think. And I think I'm going to put it in the middle of B tier for now. So there we go. That was the Anchorage Alakazams. Now we have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, first thing that jumps out to me. Torkoal, Lilligant, Hisui, or Hisui and Lilligant. They're crazy together. I think Hisui and Lilligant is really, really good. So that's a huge concern for opposing teams, is you have to be ready to deal with sleep powders and super strong hits from Lilligant, or Hisui and Lilligant, and the potential for After You Eruption. That's 3 things. With normal Lilligant, you only need to worry about Sleep Powder and then the potential of strong hits from Torkoal, really, and After You Eruption. Like, Lilligant had options to do, like, Leaf Storm or whatever, but it was inconsistent, and it still didn't do that much. But now you have huge, huge damage in 2 ways, along with Sleep Powders. I think it's going to be a problem. I think it's straight up going to be a huge issue. So that's a fast mode. King Gambit, Oranguru, another 2 great Trick Room options to help with Torkoal. Obviously, Eruption, and then the move that makes everything go again, or makes your partner's move go again, is great. King Gambit's really good. I don't know if it's actually great here, because you're not drawing a lot of Intimidates with your team. So Defiant isn't great, and Supreme Overlord is not super great anyways. But you know, it's an option. I don't really get what Tatsugiri is doing on this team. You don't need the Storm Drain, because you don't have a ton of Water Weak Pokemon, and the ones that are Water Weak, one of them is Torkoal, so it's setting up the Sun. It just doesn't seem like that important of a Pokemon to me here, so I don't love it. But I think that's getting a little bit caught in the weeds. When you have stuff like Crocodile, too, who I think is really quite good. You can intimidate. You can do intimidate stuff. I don't think you have any real anger point options on this team. Maybe I'm wrong about that, though. But yeah, so you have a fast mode then with Kilowattrel Crocodile, a fast Disquake mode. like a real fast Disc-Quake mode, and a Tailwind setup. So all of these Pokemon, like we're gonna get to, like Stonejourner, Tatsugiri, even Lilligant's Not in the Sun, they become real threats, like speed threats with the Tailwind up. Persian, I don't think is good, but it is a fake out Pokemon with some other options, but it's just so meh at doing anything that isn't that. And I don't know if that will justify itself on this team. Maybe it will. So that's a big problem, I think, on this team potentially. Let me just make sure. Persian is the only fake out, right? Yeah. So if you want to fake out and set up Trick Room, then you're stuck with Persian on the field, which you're not happy about. So I don't know if this team's going to have a really good option and good way to get up Trick Room consistently, because your best fake out Pokemon, or your only fake out Pokemon, is a Persian, and you don't want to be faking out with Persian and then having a Persian under Trick Room. Stonejourner is good, though. I think it's underrated. I think its Power Spot is a good ability, and I think it can run an Assault Vest, it can run a Scarf, it can run a Sash. And all of that can be justifiable. A little tough to run a Scarf, I think, without Sand, maybe, because I think you want to be Rock Sliding. Maybe that doesn't matter, actually, at all. Maybe I'm just making stuff up. Spiritomb is a really good secondary Trick Room setter, because it has entirely different weaknesses to Oranguru. Yeah, and then Skrelp is just a good 1 or 2 pointer. Good stats for the cost. Very much like a Chillwind Yeti. Good stats for cost. So I like this team a lot. I really like this team. The only thing, like I've mentioned a couple times, that I don't like is the Persian and the Tatsugiri. I would probably try to find, if it's possible, get just a better fake out user and a Bagmon, if it were me. But I like the team. So sorry, that's my team. I am just copy pasting stuff. So I will now be putting this. What is this team? This is the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is this. I think it's going to be an S tier. An A tier, potentially an S tier. I'll put it in A tier for now. It might work its way up to S tier after I see the rest of the teams. And then the last Pokemon in the division, or last team in the division, I think, is the Shelgonbich. I can't pronounce it. I'm sorry. I don't know how. But the coach is electric, and they are quite an impressive coach. They beat me last season, and I don't know what to make of their team entirely. Enamorus is very good. Has Contrary, which is obviously a great ability. Great speed tiers overall. Dragapult to Gastrodon. I think you can justifiably Trick Room on this team, or run a fast, or be fast. You have Bruxish to stop any fake outs or anything like that. Does this team actually? Yeah, Bruxish is a Trick Room setter. That's not a good Trick Room setter, in my opinion. It's just it's not bulky enough. But it does stop fake out. So if a team's primary way of stopping Trick Room, Psychic Trick Room setters, is a fake out, you're golden. I am missing a Pokemon because I put that there's 2 Skuntakes on this. Let me fix that real quick. Aha! It was not a mistake. I was just making a joke about how Wigglytuff stinks. It's bad. Yeah. So the other Pokemon is Wigglytuff. So Wigglytuff, that's interesting. Anyways, so Cleavor is a good Pokemon. It's got high damage, got Tailwind as an option. Enamorus is good. His team doesn't have many glaring weaknesses to anything. A slight weakness to Ice, which, I mean, it's real. In that, that because they're weakness, they're Pokemon that aren't weak to ice, that resist ice, are frail. So like, Salazzle and Bruxish don't really love taking ice moves. Like they can, but they don't love it. And especially if a team has like Freeze Dry, Gastrodon hates it. So that is something to worry about, at least to think about with this team. But I mean, I love the speed tiers. That's huge. Right? Just you have to consider the fact that this team can be doing anything. It's got in its fast mode has the Fairy Dragon Steel Core all in one. Like that's all your fast mode. Or like all of them are in your fast mode, which is huge, and that's a great core to have. And you don't have the full Fire, Water, Grass core. Oh, you do, because Salazzle, but you don't have that all in the fast mode, or in the slow mode, but you do have two of them in the slow mode, in Gastrodon and Decidueye. They're both in the slower mode, can function pretty well in Trick Room. And like I really like Enamorus as a Pokemon. I think Iron Treads is underrated. I think it's quite good. Cleavor I think is pretty good. I'm not as high on it as other people are, but I think it's good. Yeah, and Skuntank is like, and the other problem I have with this team is I like all of these Pokemon individually. My big concern is like, do you have a way to set up this slow mode? Because if Bruxish was like, if Bruxish, obviously this points-wise would never happen, but if Bruxish was Oranguru, this team would be like S tier for me, I think. I think I really, really like it. But without a good Trick Room setter, and I just don't believe Bruxish is that good of a Trick Room setter, I think this team is just, it has too many weaknesses for me. Like in the ability to make the slow mode facilitate. And I think if you don't need to respect the slow mode that much, then the fast mode becomes really significantly less scary. Because I think one of the big benefits of this team is that it's so wide, and that you could do so many different things with it. But again, you can't if Bruxish is bad, and Bruxish is kind of bad. So, God, I don't know where to put it. I think I want to put it in the A tier range. I think that's where I want it to go right now. Anyways, I'll be back in 1 second. Okay. I figured I've got Tay's team, the South Texas Slowpokes. So I like this team. It has a fast Tailwind setter in Tornadus Therian, which is a good Pokemon that I think is fine if you bring it almost every week. It's got a good Trick Room setter / denier in Farigiraf. Its slow mode I think is pretty fake. Like Ice Cube's not a real slow Pokemon. Hippopotas is not a real slow Pokemon. Chestnut, you want to be setting up, most of the time I think, you want to be setting up iron defenses and body pressing. And if you're doing that, then you're not really playing into Trick Room that well. So the actual slow mode isn't good, but Farigiraf is a good imprisoner of Trick Room. So I believe in it to do that well. Especially because it can't be faked out. Tinkaton is a real threat. It's got the Dragon Fairy Steel Core done. Got it. It's set. The first 2 picks. Not that that's really how it works. I think you do want them to be separate most of the time, but it's pretty good. Still, Sandy Shocks I think is a potentially underrated Pokemon on the right team. I think its special attack threat is larger than people realize. 121 special attack is huge. And this team has great attackers overall. Like, you really need to be scared of even Riolu, Ice Cube, priority moves. Dragonite has huge attack stat, and it can't be intimidated, so you don't need to worry about that. Samurot's got huge attack. The one thing I worry about is this team too physically offensive, and because the special attackers are what? Tornadus Therian, which is okay, nothing bad to say about there. Sandy Shocks, nothing bad to say about it. And then I think Farigiraf is kind of a fake special attacker. Because not that it doesn't have the stats, it's just got 110 special attack, that's real. But I think with this team, you're going to need to run Imprison Trick Room on it enough that it might not end up being able to be a super strong special attacker, and because if you're running Imprison Trick Room, you need to be able to survive. If you need to be able to survive, you want to EV defensively, and if you want to EV defensively, you're not EV offensively, etc. You get the point. I just don't know if Farigiraf is going to be able to do the job of enough special attackers to make this team great. But it's very good. I think I am going to put this... Oh, and Samurott Hisuian is just a great pickup. Really great Pokemon. I don't know if I've talked about it enough. Sharpness is a huge ability to have great ability. It's got a really solid move pool, solid stabs. Yeah, the only Pokemon on here that I would never consider bringing is Hippopotas. Oh yeah, and the Fire, Water, Grass Core. What's great about them is they're all kind of in this middling speed range, which is normally not great speed to be at. But I think when you've got a consistent Tailwind setter, a fast Tailwind setter like Tornadus Therian, it's really... Or like maybe you're going against a really fast mode team, you can set up Trick Room in front of them, and then all of these can work in Trick Room together. So you can have them all working in the same ways, in the same speed mode, whatever speed mode you need. So I think that's cool. I think this team is pretty good. I like it a lot. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for this team. I think I'm going to put it in the A tier. And I think I'm going to move this up to the S tier. So this is what I think the team's looking at right now. I'm not going to rank my own team. For the record, I think I'd put it somewhere between S and A, somewhere in this range. I think I made a good team, but I'm just not able to unbiasedly assess it, and I don't really want to go into how well I think I did or how good I think my team is. But no, I think highly of it. But specifics are beyond me. Okay. Now I'll be back with the other division, which is not Enamorous. I believe it's Landorus, that is in the Earth Conference. Okay, I am back with the Landorus division. And we are starting with the Philadelphia Ash Whoopers. I think this is Daddy's team? Unless I'm super mistaken. And I just watched his draft, like post-draft review, the draft review of Hate. But I do not hate this team. Funnily enough, I actually quite like it. The best Tailwind setter in the format, Tornadus, Prankster Tailwind, Hisuian Typhlosion, really great in the Prankster Tailwind because it's gonna want to Eruption, and it's got huge special attack, and the only thing it's missing is being really fast. And now you've given it Prankster Tailwind, there are gonna be some teams that just can't respond to it that well. You can force out a Terra or something, and in that case, maybe you just double protect turn one. They Terra, they waste it. You get to switch out, move stuff around, just putting on a ton of offensive pressure without even needing to do anything except a good lead matchup. You've got, I'm going to come back to Hisuian Gudra in a minute. But you've got Overquill, which is a rain mode potential. You've got the rain mode of Slush Rust, of Swift Swim, Beartic, and Overquill. So, no Stab Waters, but you've still got the option. Hatterene is a good Trick Room setter, a good Trick Room Abuser as well, although you don't really have much else that can abuse Trick Room, so it might just end up being a Trick Room Imprisoner most of the time. You got the Hail mode in Beartic and Rotom Frost. So this team is just so weather dependent, and you have a great weather setter in Tornadus, right? I really like that. So now to what I don't like. I think Hisuian Goodra is really overrated. I think it's not. I just do not think it's that good of a Pokemon, and let me explain why. So when you look at Goodra's stats, 80 HP is okay. It's got good defensive stats. With 150 special defense, 100 defense, 110 special attack, and 100 attack. So it can be an attacker, it can be a special attacker, but it's not it's not great at either. It just can do either. So one thing you could do is like a mix set where you have Draco Meteor, Assault Vest, and then some stuff there. That I think I like a little bit, but okay. Yeah, what I don't like is I think that it's most of the time it feels relatively one-dimensional. Like it's going to be doing one of two things. It's going to be an Assault Vest set, or it's going to be an Iron Defense Body Press set. And the thing I don't like about the Assault Vest set is you're not hitting this thing with special attacks anyways. It's already got 150 special defense. I don't love the Body Press, the Iron Defense Body Press set, because I just feel like you're not... Maybe it's irrational. Maybe I just irrationally don't like this Pokemon because I think its design is hideous. But I think that most of the time you're going to be able to either ignore it or double up into it and really hurt and stop its and stop the Pokemon from doing anything. Or if you ignore it, I think you're ignoring it because you know you can avoid taking much damage because you have Ghost types who are immune to Body Press. So overall, I just don't believe that Hisuian Goodra is going to do that much. Shell Armor is obviously cool with this, but I think I think my biggest problem is I think it's a better ladder Pokemon than it is a draft Pokemon, and it's not doing well on ladder. Or at least it's not doing that well. Because Shell Armor makes it a good response to the Urshifus and stuff, right? And you don't need Iron Defense because you are... or you don't need the... I don't know what I'm saying. You have Iron Defense, so you don't need Protect anyways, because you're going to be surviving those hits. And you resist it. The whole point is to say that I just don't like Goodra that much. I don't like Hisuian Goodra that much. But I love the Tailwind mode, I love the Fast mode with Typhlosion, and I think you can do some cool stuff with Overquill, Rotom Frost, and especially Garchomp in the Fast mode as well. I think most weeks are going to be bringing Tornadus, Typhlosion, Rotom, Garchomp, Hatterene, and then one of Beartic or Overquill. Because that's 6, right? I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, obviously Goodra is going to be coming, so Goodra is going to take the spot of one of those Pokemon a lot. I would guess Rotom Frost, but yeah, I just don't super believe in the Pokemon. But I like the Fast mode on this team. I like that it has a relatively good defensive type chart. It is super weak to Electric, but that's super weak to Electric with 3 fake Pokemon, so who cares? Like if you delete them, I bet this type chart looks better. I'm too tired to like really do the math on my own to figure it out. But yeah, it looks better because you have 2 ground immunities. Sure, you got some ground weaknesses, but who cares? Everybody has rock weaknesses, so that's fine. Although it is a pretty strong rock weakness, so I guess Goodra is going to be coming to help with that a lot. And then a kind of important Ghost weakness, but not super important. Yeah, I don't know. This team looks good. It's a good team. And I believe in all the different weather modes, and I believe in the Tailwind into Earthquake and Tailwind into Typhlosion, into Typhlosion Eruption stuff. So I think now I'm going to be putting it... I think my concern is just, will Trick Room just run this team? So I think I'm putting it bottom of A tier. But it's not bad. It's not a bad team. Anyways, now we have the Boca Raton Belly Belts. And the Boca Raton Belly Belts are a really cool team. I was talking to Kodamrin, Colby, throughout the draft. We were helping each other. And I gave some advice, he gave some advice. You know, that's how it works. Landorus Therian, I think, is a really interesting pick. I like it as a first overall pick because, like, I don't know, like, all the ground, like, tons of ground types went off the board in the first round. And Landorus is a really good ground type because it's got huge attack stat, which you always need to be wary of, and Intimidate, which is obviously a great ability. So this, and it helps set up the rest of this overall more defensive team, I feel like. More balanced and defensive team with the Intimidate. It's more aggressive than his team last season, for sure. It's got Amoonguss, great defensive Pokemon. In draft, obviously, is iffy, because if a team prepares for it well enough, then what is it doing? But I think to prepare for it really well, most of the time you want like a follow me user that you can put a safety goggles on. Otherwise, you're just running so many Terra Grasses or something like that. Sure, you're stopping Amoonguss, but like when you have so many Terra Grasses, you're losing out on other defensive Terras and stuff that you could have. And especially if Rotom Heat becomes a big deal, then the Terra Grasses are also bad for that. This team, spoiler alert, has I think a really proficient snow mode to take advantage of if teams want to Terra Grass. So yeah, then you have Rotom Heat, which is just a good defensive or offensive Pokemon, flexible, middling speed tier. But yeah, so Landorus, Rotom, and Amoonguss, or Landorus and Rotom, all middling speed, Amoonguss, slow speed, and then you have Inteleon, which helps the fast mode, right? It's got Icy Winds and Snipe Shot and stuff like that. So it's going to be able to hit hard as a water type. It doesn't have anyways, I like that part of the team. Mesprit, I like the flexibility of Urshifu single. Urshifu's a great Pokemon. You got good fairy resistances to help balance it out with Amoonguss and Rotom Heat to be good defensive pieces with Urshifu. Fletchinger, priority Tailwind is... I'm going to get into it. Articuno, Snover is a good snow mode, and Sliggoo, Hisuian Sliggoo is another good defensive piece. So, what do I like about this team a lot? I like Earthquakes. I like really strong Earthquakes. Oh, and I'm Meditite. Colby's going to do something with it. He loves to bring weird stuff, so I'm sure it's going to see some play this season. But that's beyond me. I personally don't really care about Meditite when I'm looking at this team. Landorus. What do I like about this team? Landorus. I like Landorus, and I like Urshifu. I like Intimidate, and I like how this team is pretty defensive. Articuno, Snover helps play into this defensive mode as well, but they can both throw out blizzards. I like how that pairs with Amoonguss, because Amoonguss baits out Terra Grass, then you're throwing out blizzards. That's great. That's also part of why I like Rotom Heat. My main concern with this team is when you look at the speeds, Urshifu, Landorus, Rotom Heat, Articuno, all of these Pokemon, well, okay, mainly Urshifu, Landorus, and Rotom, and I guess Mesprit too, I'm going to count in this. These Pokemon you want to come. to games. They're high points, right? Obviously, Landorus and Urshifu especially. They're high points. They're good Pokemon. But you kind of don't want them at the speed they're at. I feel like you really need speed control consistently to take advantage of, especially Urshifu. That's the best way to use it, is with consistent speed control. And you do have priority Tailwind in Fletching, so you can get that. You can get that pretty consistent speed control. But if you are getting that pretty consistent speed control, you are bringing a Fletchinder to the game. And you need to make sure then that you can win consistently within the time of that speed control, or at least get such an advantage that you're destined to win. And because this team also has defensive pieces in Amoonguss, Rotom Heat, and Sliggoo, and Mesprit, I guess, isn't really defensive, but it can play as defensive. It's like a setup Pokemon, I feel like. It's not like all-out aggression. Then I have to wonder, like, are you able to do that consistently? And if not, how do you then play this team if you're not just using priority Tailwinds? I think it's going to end up being... I think this team's going to end up with, like, scarfing Urshifu a lot, and bulking out Landorus to survive some hits. That's not bad. I like this team. I think there are answers, and I think there are ways to play it. But I think this team might end up feeling one-dimensional, because I feel like the best way to play it... I feel like there's probably going to end up being like a best way to use this team, and I don't know if it adapts as much to the opponent as other teams will. And that's not because you can't use all the Pokemon here. I think you can. But I think the best Pokemon, again, Urshifu and Landorus, will have probably optimal item choices, which Colby would want to go with each week, being Scarf and Assault Vest, probably. And I don't know if that lack of flexibility is great for the team. That being said, that's a relatively minor flaw on an otherwise very good team. I'm probably biased here. I like Colby. And so I like the team. And I like the team, and I helped Colby draft it. But I'm putting it in A. I'm putting it in top of A. I think the team's very good. Okay, next. We have the Dover Delmises. So this team's really interesting. Ursaluna, obviously, like, one of the best, if not the best, Trick Room Pokemon in the format, like Trick Room Abusers. Sableye is a fantastic Pokemon. Zapdos I love. Uxie, Charizard, Bisharp, Arboliva, Samurott, Squawkabilly, Shellos, and Meowth. So, one thing that's really important to note, no Pokemon above speed 100. And there's not like a cheating speed Pokemon. I guess Charizard is, right? No, it is Solar Power, not Chlorophyll, obviously. So, there's no real way to cheat speed on this team, and there's no Pokemon that's faster than base 100 speed. That's concerning. You do have and Uxie's a pretty good Trick Room setter, but it's not like the best Trick Room setter in the game, and I feel like this team needs to be in Trick Room like almost every game, because your fast mode is just Zapdos. Like, Uxie's not putting up offensive pressure. Charizard kind of is, but I also think it's kind of fake. Unless you have Sunny Day up, and I don't know... I guess Uxie can be hitting Sunny Day. Zapdos can, but there's better things to be doing. And then the rest of these Pokemon are like middling speed tiers that you can get away with in Trick Room or in Tailwind, and I guess Zapdos is your Tailwind setter. So base 100 speed for Tailwind is pretty good, but I don't want that to be the fastest Pokemon on my team. It's just my take. I don't know if I have a ton to say about it, because like the Trick Room mode is absurd. Like, I love it. Ursaluna, Arboliva, Samurott, all three of these Samurott's not great in Trick Room, but it is a base 70 speed, so you can get away with it in Trick Room for sure. Maybe put something like an Iron Ball on it, and then it's great in Trick Room. These Pokemon are great. And in Trick Room, they function fantastically. But they have shared weaknesses, with Arbelieve and Ursulin both being weak to fighting. I don't know. I don't know about this team. And also, for Fake Out, is it just Meowth? Oh. I think it's just Meowth, right? Oh, Sableye, of course, right. So you can Sableye, you can Fake Out, and then have Uxie Trick Room. Sure, okay, that's a pretty good mode too. And you have Prankster, Thunder Wave, and stuff with Sableye. That's a good form of speed control as well. But I just don't know if I would, even with that and being a pretty hard committed Trick Room team, I don't know if I would be comfortable with having Zapdos be my fast mode, because I don't think it's aggressive enough to justify caring about as an opponent. Like, I think you need one other really good fast Pokemon for me to respect your fast mode and not just say, how do I beat this Trick Room mode, and dedicate all my resources to beating the Trick Room mode. And then even if you do bring the fast mode that week, I don't know if I'm upset. I think I'm happy, even if I spent all my resources dedicated towards beating the Trick Room mode. So, yeah, this team has a really good Trick Room mode if you can get it up. I don't know if you can consistently get up Trick Room on this team. And I don't know if I really respect a fast mode that is just Zapdos, Bisharp, Charizard, in terms of putting up offensive, I guess, and Samurott. But I don't know if I respect that fast mode that much, given there's nothing that on turn 1 can go faster than base 100 speed. So with that being said, this is the Dover Delmise. I am going to put in the tier above the. I'm going to put it below Regilabs, I think. I'm choosing the wrong teams. Okay. Yep, now we've got the Grove City Gigaliths. So, Sneasler, a really interesting fast Pokemon, Cresselia, Zoroark, Thwackey, Morgrem, Tauros, Paldea Aqua, Dawnfan, Revavroom, Espeon, Colossal, Rotom. So, the first thing I need to bring up. You got Sneasler, love it. You had to get Thwackey to get a terrain. That's kinda yikes. You're picking up Thwackey in round 4. And it's not even the Fake Out user you want, because you have Morgrem. So I don't love that. Just straight up, I don't. But at least you do have something for Sneasler. So you don't just have to have, like, Fling King's Rock or whatever. Although it is good at Fling King's Rock, Fake Out Fling King's Rock stuff. So that's something you could do too. It's got really good speed tiers. Colossal, Dawnfan make for a solid enough Trick Room option. Sneasler, Zoroark, Espeon, I think, and Tauros all make for a good fast mode. And then you've got middling stuff here, so the speed tiers I think work. Look at this type chart, beautiful. No net weaknesses. You'll love to see it. And the thing you have a 4 times weakness to in Sneasler, you have an immunity to. Ground, you have 2 4 times weaknesses to it, which is a big deal, but at least you do have 2 immunities to it. Water, you don't have that though for Colossal, but honestly, like, you don't really care. Because it's Colossal. You shouldn't be bringing... Colossal shouldn't be such an essential part of the team that matters too much. One thing I'll say, though, is I think when you're getting Cresselia second, if it was me, I would want to have, like, really strong Trick Room abusers in the back. And your best Trick Room users like Donphan, they're fine at Trick Room. Like when I said this is a fine Trick Room mode, it is fine. It's not fine if you're like wanting to set up Trick Room stuff with Cresselia. One of the best, if not the best, Trick Room setter in the format. So now I just have to ask, like, you spent so many points and such a high pick on a Pokemon that is going to do its job, but then once it's done, like, what are you doing with the job that it's now done? Not a ton. Which is a shame, because I actually really like this first three. I like Cresselia and I like Zoroark because if somebody's throwing out ghost moves to hit Cresselia, boom, it's actually a Zoroark, by the way. If they're taunting you because they don't want the Cresselia to set up Trick Room, boom, it's a Zoroark. And now it's going to hit you for a ton of damage. I like that stuff. Like, I think this is a cool setup. Unfortunately, Zoroark doesn't have a lot on this team. There's not a lot on this team that wants to be hit with fighting moves. Right? Like, is it just... Yeah, there's only one fighting weakness, so it's not great for Zoroark either. There's no Tailwind on this team, so the fast mode really is just these three, and if your opponent gets up Tailwind, you're kind of screwed. Or these four, I should say. Sneasler through Tauros Aqua. Yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't see the vision with this team. I'm gonna need to be proved. I honestly don't get it. I need to see what it's gonna do. But to me, it looks pretty weak. It looks weak enough. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. Yeah, at the bottom. Okay, now I am going to look at the next team, which is the New York Ninetales. Okay, I'm just gonna, spoiler alert, I think this is my favorite team that was drafted. I think it's my favorite team that's drafted. I haven't done a full deep dive analysis yet, but looking at it, Grimmsnarl Spectrier, maybe my favorite duo of this format. It's just so... I mean, like, not the best duo, right? The best duo is probably, like, Tornadus and Urshifu Rapid. But my favorite. Because it has Grimmsnarl, which I've just come to respect as one of the best Pokemon, regardless of power level, almost. Because Fake Out is always good, Screens are always good, 120 attack stat is always good enough. Especially if that's not the main thing it does. Parting Shot's always good. Like, it always has stuff. Prankster is always good. Frisk is always good. It's just, like, as the format gets stronger, Grimmsnarl doesn't weaken because it can do so many things that, like, almost weaken other teams as opposed to just being strong in and of itself. And Spectrier does that really well too, with Snarls, Will-O-Wisps. So they can really create some problems and slow down Pokemon. And then who do you have in the back? You have Quaquaval in the back, who can be a fantastic setup sweeper. You have Electros, who can bulk or who can coil, and now you have an unstoppable Eel that doesn't take any super effective hits. I love that. I love that. And the speed, you got really fast with Spectre Mousehold. Articuno Galar is an okay speed Tailwind, and it is an okay Trick Room setter. So you have both. And for the Trick Room mode, you have Caparajá. You have a 4 times fighting resist in your main Trick Room setter, and one of the best types for dealing with your Trick Room Pokemon, with being Caparajá, even Carkol can come some weeks, is fighting moves. I don't know. I just think this team is excellent. Like, all around, built fantastically. Mousehold can follow me from Spectrier, so any ghost type hits that are gonna really hurt Spectre, not a big problem anymore. And which would let Spectre set up in the back if it's not doing the Will-O-Wisping, if it's not doing the Snarling. The one thing that I might not be fully appreciating with this team in terms of, like, that could become a problem is I think most of the time the best way to use Grimmsnarl, Spectrier, Mousehold, and Articuno Galar, 4 of the top 5 picks, 4 of the top 5 most points used Pokemon on this team, are as supports. And that could end up being a problem, where this team is so supportive that it's not actually able to do enough. But the thing is, with these supports, they all also have offensive modes. Grimmsnarl can be Frisk into all attacks, or like attack and protects and stuff. Frisk, Focus Sash. You get it. You understand. You're smart. You're a smart viewer. Spectrier can also be Citrus, but can be nasty plotting up and then just dealing tons of damage and Terra Ferrying and stuff like that. Mousehold obviously can use Population Bomb. Articuno Galar has competitive and can use Freezing Glares and Air Slashes or Hurricanes or whatever, and just be hitting stuff like a truck once it gets its competitive boost if a team tries to either Intimidate or Snarl or whatever. Icy Wind. Yeah, I just think this team is fantastic. I think this is the best team that was drafted. I am not going to hesitate at all to put this top of S tier. It is superb. Truly superb. Great job, Sam. Really, really great job. Now we have the Mallorca Mawwiles, the team I did a trade with. They got Moltres, I got Roaring Moon. So let's look at it. Annihilate, Klefki, Moltres, Electrode, Iron Bundle, Mudsdale, Delphox, Toxicroak, Masquerain, Cyclizar, Zorua. Okay, so first thing I want to point out, this team has speed, man. Electrode, Iron Bundle, Delphox, Cyclizar. Cyclizar I think is kind of fake, but Iron Bundle, Electrode are so fast. They can do so much. Now, what does this team not have? A super viable Trick Room. Mudsdale's great. Never going to deny that. Love Mudsdale. But your other Trick Room options are non-existent. They just aren't here. Zorua isn't a Pokemon. So, unless you're setting up Trick Room because the opponent set up Tailwind or you... I don't know. I think this team might run into problems if they are somehow... if a true Trick Room team comes along and they are unable to get up Imprison for some reason. Either Klefki goes down or they imprison the Imprison on the first turn and then get the Trick Room. Whatever it is, this team could have problems if Trick Room gets up, or if this team tries to go against a true Trick Room team. That's one thing to know. The other thing to know is, wow, this team has a lot of weaknesses. I'm just going to get rid of the Pokemon that are, like, kind of fake. Zorua is kind of fake. Masquerain's kind of fake. That helps it a bit. But, like, this ground weakness, I think, is real. Like, Klefki is a problem. Like, when Delphox, your fake-out user, and Klefki are all weak to ground. Like, if your fake-out user is weak to ground, and Klefki's weak to ground, if I'm throwing a... Covert Cloak on something on a ground type and just hitting Earthquake. So if you try to fake out my Earthquake user to stop it from hitting Klefki and Toxicroak, boom, I'm hitting you both still. A weakness to Ice, which isn't the biggest deal because I don't think Electrode's that real of a Pokemon. Weakness to Fairy is important because it is both Annihilate and Moltres. But it's not the end of the... And your resistance is Delphox, or one of your resistance is Delphox, and I don't think it's really a defensive switch-in. But this team is really fast. And that's worth something. Obviously, Electrode can do the Scarf Annihilate, bullet punch stuff. I think that's why it's here. I think it's what it's going to be doing most of the time it's doing anything. But so the other thing I want to point out is I don't know if this team needs Tailwind, but if there are any weeks it does need Tailwind, I don't know if that's Moltres Galar's best thing to be doing. I think you want to bulk it out most of the time. So the fact that it's your only Tailwind setter might end up being a problem, but it's not bad. Like, I don't know. This team strikes me as just its overwhelming speed is going to be a matchup problem for some teams, and it will have bad matchups too. But this team will just be a matchup problem. So the monologue, I'm gonna put it. I'm going to put it in the middle of B tier. Next, we have the Grafton Gengars. Fluttermane Chi-Yu obviously is the thing that jumps out. Oh my gosh, what a crazy combo, Fluttermane Chi-Yu. And you have Pachirisu 2 to follow me next to Fluttermane for ghost type attacks so they don't do anything. Fantastic looking type chart, truly, but like, this Pokemon's fake, this Pokemon's fake, this Pokemon's fake. Looks a little worse now, but not horrible. Ground is a problem, but yeah, actually the ground weakness is a bit of a problem. Shroodo's only half fake, but it's still real enough. The other thing that immediately jumps out to me is, let's look at the Pokemon. Fluttermane, special attacker. Chi-Yu, special attacker. Wordeer is a physical attacker, right? I actually am not too familiar with that Pokemon. It can be either. So, either. Noivern, special attacker. Landorus, special attacker. Lucario, physical attacker. You have two Pokemon that can really be physical attackers, and they're not the best physical attackers in the world. They're fine. Lucario's also better at being a special attacker. So I think Snarls are going to end up being a real problem for this team, and you don't have a way of stopping it like competitive or something, or the physical equivalent, which I'm blanking on the name of right now. I think that's going to end up being a problem for this team, but like the weaknesses here are all fine. You have strong combinations. Like, I'm terrified if I see Fluttermane Chi-Yu out on turn 1. I'm really scared if I see Pachirisu Fluttermane and I don't have a spread steel move or something. Like, if I'm not Golden Go, I'm terrified. Like Landorus is terrifying. Landorus Incarnate. Noivern with Frisk is really good. A really fast Tailwind setter for this team, which is great for Chi-Yu to have. Man, like, there's a lot to like about this team. But there is the worry of, are you too specially focused? And do you have a way to stop Trick Room? Like, Wordeer can imprison Trick Room. And so it can imprison Trick Room, right? I'm not crazy. You're not reliant. Yeah, it can imprison Trick Room. But if a team does get Trick Room up on this team, you don't have any like low end, and you don't threaten Trick Room at all. In the you don't threaten Trick Room at all with this team. So the opposing team only has to worry about your fast mode, which I think matters. I think that matters. That being said, it can exert such offensive pressure turn 1. It's a really good team. I'm going to put it here. High A tier. Now, the last team in the Earth Division. Oh, that's the official documents. This is the last team in the Earth Division, in the Earth Conference. Thank you for sticking around for so long, by the way. I really appreciate it. I'm still new to draft, or relatively new to draft, so I'm still learning. But these are my thoughts. Rillaboom, Tauros, Paldea Blaze, Slowking, Grafaiai, Magneton, Rotom-Mow, Drifblim, Bombardier, Slacking, Palisand, Garganacl. First thing first, Firewater Grass Core, all good and they're good in slightly different ways. Rillaboom, general, really great Pokemon. Best fake out user in the format, like on ladder. In draft, I would probably put Grimmsnarl above it, but Rillaboom is another really good Pokemon. Tauros, Paldea Blaze, really just solid Intimidate Pokemon. Slowking, really solid. Trick Room Pokemon that also exerts offensive pressure with like Hydro Pump and Psychics. Grafaiai, really good Pokemon. Or no, I like Grafaiai a lot. What it's best here with is obviously Unburden, and then Grafaiai, and then you have Rillaboom. So you put Grassy Seed on it. It's doing stuff. Magneton. Interesting here. I think it must help out the type chart quite a lot. It's just another middling speed tier. It's a high-quality Eviolite Pokemon. No other Eviolites on this team, which is nice. Drifblim, similar to Grafaiai, throw a Grassy Seed on it. Although the difference is, Grafaiai can be Prankster. I don't think Drifblim can be anything other than Unburden reasonably. Like if you're running Flare Boost Drifblim, that's not a good set. You're not happy with it. So you really want to be Unburden and then be a speed control bot. And so now I'm looking at this team. First thing I'm asking myself, does this team need a speed control bot? Yes. So before I mentioned like you don't want your highest speed to... I wouldn't be happy with my high speed being 110. But it functionally isn't. It's like 160 or whatever with Drifblim. Because Drifblim is just going to be so fast. And it can imprison Trick Room, so you have a good imprison Trick Room user. You also have a good Trick Room mode. And you have a good fast mode with Rillaboom, Tauros, Slaking, and Grafaiai even as a fast mode. Wow, I think I really like this team. Garganacl helps for the long game. Helps play a long game with this team. And this team likes the long game because you don't have a ton of net weaknesses outside of Ice. And Ice... Yeah, the Ice weakness is pretty debilitating. If the team has a really good Ice Pokemon, this team is going to struggle into that. But man, I mean, Bombardier, a bunch of people have talked about it already, I think. It was a really good Pokemon at the low point total it was. I think Palisand's good for Trick Room. With Slowking. Both your Trick Room mons, though, then are weak to Ghost, which is a problem, but... I don't know, I like this. I think this is solid. I'm getting really tired, so my thoughts have gotten worse, I'm sure, over time. But Garganacl helps with the long game. Rillaboom facilitates a long game with fake outs and grassy terrains. Tauros, love the Intimidates for long games and medium games. Medium length games. Slowking, it's obviously bulky, it can help support that. Slacking, Grafaiai, another huge thing. Like, you need to be worried about that mode existing with Doodle. And I'm not sure what Magneton does in this team other than just being a really good NFE. And your electric type when you need an electric type. But Rotom-Mow is that. I don't know what Magneton's doing on this team, TBH. Yeah, Rotom-Mow seems like it's doing the job of... Well, I feel like these two are redundant. But everything else is really good. So, okay. I like this team overall. I like the Drifblim. I mean, I have to like the Drifblim team. I'm sorry. I've named myself after it. I have to like the Drifblim team. But I do like this team with a lot of Pokemon that can benefit from a really fast Tailwind and the Trick Room mode. I think is legitimate enough to be scared of. I would be scared going against this team, and I don't feel like there are a lot of ways to abuse it outright. I don't know if there's like a ton of funky stuff it can do. Like I don't know if this is the flashiest team in the world, although Grafai, Slacking, and Drifblim can do really funky stuff too. I think Slowking can. Whatever. It doesn't seem like the flashiest team in the world, but I'm a huge fan. I'm putting it in the A tier. I think I'm putting it here. So I think this is my tier list. If I were to put my team somewhere, I'd put it like here. I think I'd put it bottom of S, maybe top of A, as I mentioned before. But maybe if I delete the tier list, delete row. Yep, it's gone. Okay, so that's my team. That's my tier list. I hope you all enjoyed watching and listening to my rambling thoughts that have gotten more and more tired over time, and so it's gotten worse, I'm sure. But I enjoyed making this, and I will make another one for the Sky Conference soon, which should be out the day after this one comes out, hopefully. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for watching so much of this. If I trashed your team, just know it's not personal, and I hope you succeed, prove me wrong, and then I learn from how you've proven that I am stupid and am not able to properly analyze a team. And for all the people whose teams I proved good, or I said were good, please prove me right. I would love for you to prove that I am a smart little guy, you know? So yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.